Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome. I'm Sarah from Handmade After Dark, and it is time for my weekly online class to go. This week, I am using the Scenic Adventures Bundle, and so I've got 3 cards for this week's class, and I will just switch my screen around. All right. So these are the 3 cards for tonight. So they use so it has the stamp set to be using on all of them, and then we also have the dies. So with the dies, you get lots of the backgrounds, all the scenery. So you can do quite a lot with just the die cuts alone. Now, the trees in the stamp set, the dies do not cut out the trees. So for these trees, if you want to cut them out, you'll need to fussy cut. These trees are different sizes, but that's fine. I just used die cut trees or stamped, not fussy cut. So you've got plenty of options. All right, let's move these ones out of the way. So this one is the first one that we're going to do. And I'm just going to see if I can get my first one that we're going to do. And there we go. Now, hopefully I'll be able to see comments. I don't know if it will work. If it doesn't, Renee, if you're watching, hello, you've been here most weeks. So I'm going to assume that you are here, and I always miss your comment until afterwards. So hello if you are here, and thank you for joining me. All right, so for this one, we're using Misty Moonlight for the card base, and then we have, now there are lots of die cut pieces for this one. I've got some DSP from the Splendid Autumn DSP pack, so it's a 6x6" pack. And then we have lots and lots of die cuts and some white for the insert, basic beige for the sentiment. Now with these pieces, so if you're getting the kit, so if you're getting the class to go, as with all of them, you do need the stamp set and dies, so you will need to do your own die cutting. But all of the cardstock pieces that I give you will be bigger than the end piece that you need. The reason I've done it that way is so that you can basically decide exactly how you want it. So for example, this one, which I just cut from a scrap, you might want it, the main mountain sitting further over that way. You may want to adjust it so you've got a bit more room to move so that you can adjust the pieces as you want. And for the DSP, you will get the full card size. So you can see in the sample that only sort of, about a little bit more than half of it is visible, but I found it easier to keep the full piece and layer on top of that. So I am going to include the full piece so that you can do that. When you are layering with this one, you want to start from the back and work down. And for this, this Misty Moonlight piece at the bottom, so this uses one of the dies. Let me pull it back out. So it uses this one. So this one doesn't actually die cut anything. It adds the texture, but you will need to do that repeatedly over the cardstock. So, you do some across and then you just move across until you've covered as much or as little as you want. All right, so to put this one together, we will start at the back. So I'm going to roughly work out, let's say, rearrange all my pieces, roughly work out where I want everything to sit, making sure that everything like all the paper is covered. So that's going to sit at the bottom. And then I want this one to sit underneath. So this one doesn't have as much green showing as my sample card, but that's fine. And then this one will sit probably a bit further down. I'll move that one across. So you do need to sort of shuffle the pieces around a bit to start with, work out where you want it to sit, make sure you're happy with how far up the page it sits, and make sure that you know haven't got any sort of gaps at the side. You don't want this piece, because this was cut from a scrap, you don't want that sitting too far across, and then not completely covering the paper. So if we put that about there, that about there, I reckon that looks about right. And then we'll just trim off the sides once we're done. So, and I think I did just grab, where's it gone? I did pull out a new bottle of glue, even though I've got about 5 open ones, but they're all getting a little bit empty, and we want to make sure this is actually going to work. And then obviously the trees will go in as well, so we need to make sure we don't forget to put those in the right place. So they will go sit around there. And actually I think I want this one. Actually, maybe, sorry, I'm just changing things around, but no, actually, let's go back to the way I had it. But let's just want to make sure we've got everything. I need this one a bit further over, I think. And then we've got some green and that will sit a bit higher up than that. That one, bring that back down. I think that looks a bit better. That will trim off there. I actually would prefer that this one comes down a bit. So I might, what do you reckon? Do I trim that one down or leave it? Let's leave it. We'll see how it looks. Yep, so yeah, just be careful if you're using a new bottle of glue, because they're quite full. And remember, because this does have sort of does cut out textured bits. If you've got too much glue, it'll come through all the little cuts. So you want to avoid that. And you also want to make sure, if you're going to be slipping anything sort of behind any of the pieces, that you've got space to do so, and you haven't sort of glued it all down too much. And actually, speaking of that, just realized, because this is going to overhang, we should do this on silicone sheet, so that, because I've gone over the edges with glue, because I wasn't thinking. So we want to make sure that when that glue is pressed down, it's not going to stick to my surface. If you put it on the silicone mat, you'll be good. So I am going to leave the other pieces in place as I stick things down. This is just my personal preference. It just makes it a bit easier for me to visualize where everything is going. And I'm just going to want to check. Yeah, that'll all be covered. That's fine. So that one is going to go about there. So I probably only need to glue from about here. Occasionally I remember to think about what I'm doing before I do it. All righty. What did I say? About there, I think. Okay. That's going to sit there. So we still need, we need to remember that the trees are going behind this one. So I'll glue it down, but I won't press the bottom of it down. I just won't press the top just yet. I'll get the trees in first. That's going to sit. Line that. Oh, too far. Back you come. There we go, about there. All right, so I'm just going to press down at the bottom and let's get these in. Just make sure I've actually got all the little die cut pieces out. Didn't quite get around to doing all of those. I was doing a lot of die cutting that day. So don't need too much, and I just added far too much. But that's all going to be hidden, well, most of it. And then just a little bit on the rest of it. Depending on how much you actually want it to stick down. If you want it to sort of be fairly sort of a bit more dimension to stick up a bit more, then by all means you don't need to stick it down. And just be mindful of where the edge is, because you don't want to end up with it too far over. Having said that, I want it a little bit further over because it's only got, well, it's got a reasonable border, but it's not massive. So you don't want it sticking too far over. I think that will be fine for that one. And then this little one. Just spread some at the bottom. Again, just watch where the edge of your paper is, and then that one is going to sit over the top. This one, when you've got the you've added the texture to all of it, it is, because it's got lots of little cuts all through it, it is a bit more fragile, so just be careful with it. Just line that up with the bottom. So that's the other advantage of keeping that full piece of DSP, is that you've got something to line up your die cuts with, so you know where the bottom is. And so as you can see, there are little bits of glue creeping through, which is why you don't want too much, but you can use gently, and you do want to be gentle with the adhesive remover with these, just because it is it is a bit more fragile. But that is fine. And then we will pick that up, make sure everything is stuck down. I'll get the adhesive remover out later for the trees that I well and truly overdid it on. And then we're just going to trim. So if you just line the edge of your scissors up with the edge of the DSP, and you will need to be careful with some of this, particularly the where you've sort of got a couple of layers of cardstock. It is a little tougher, so you just need to be careful. You can always run it through your trimmer, and if you've got, if your adhesive has come out the side as well, that sort of adds to it. Speaking of the snips, we just had an update earlier today that the Stampin' Up! Supplier of the snips is no longer going to be making them. So supply is limited to what is currently in stock. I don't know what the inventory levels are currently like, but once that goes, that's it until they can find another supplier. No idea how long that will take. So if you've been meaning to get some snips, I would highly recommend you do it sooner rather than later, just in case they run out. So that's that. So then we flip that over, and there is that final design. I'll just get a little bit of that adhesive off. Just be really careful around the trees, even though they're stuck down. These stems, they are quite thin and quite fragile, so just be gentle with the adhesive remover. And I'm just going to get my nail in there and get some of that off. Thankfully, with the liquid glue, it's a lot easier to get it off. And once this all fully dries, that'll be much easier to get off. All right. Before we actually, let's sit that down. We may as well. And seeing as I've got my liquid glue out, I will use that. So you'll find that the bottom part of this piece is a lot, you'll notice it's a lot sort of thicker and heavier than the top part, which also means it's a lot more sturdy. But just be mindful of, if you're adding anything else, any other elements that you want to, might want to pop up, maybe do it at the top part of the card where it's not quite so thick, because the bottom is quite thick. But it does make it nice and sturdy. So we'll stick that down. And while I'm here, I may as well do the insert. It is. I think this is going to run out very soon. I've got some more. Then all we need to do is a little bit of stamping, add some embellishments, and then this one is done. So that's just going inside. And I might as well just fold this one over now. Now, he's stamping. So the die cut for this is fairly small. And so when I was stamping this, and I didn't sort of plan it out, so I'm using the let the begin stamp. So this is, I don't know how well you can see that, but that is one stamp. So you've got let the at the top and then begin at the bottom. And there's not a lot of space in between. Now, if you wanted to, you could cut the stamp into two, or you can, for this particular one, because I was using Adventure, and this will need to go on an angle to fit. So it's going to go that way, and hopefully I don't mess it up. I managed in my sample one. I don't know if it'll work on this one. Now, a couple of options for stamping this. You can either just, carefully ink up one end at a time. Just make sure that the other is clean before you do the second one. Or what I actually ended up doing, I don't know why I just did. I actually moved the stamp to the bottom and folded it over, and it just, for me, it worked fine. It meant I didn't have to clean it in between. It was being lazy, let's be honest. If you are doing this, I would just recommend that you still hold the other end down, just in case you don't want it to sort of, lose its grip and flip down mid-stamping, particularly if it did happen to still have ink. So let thee is going right up in the top corner, and excuse my head if it ends up in the camera view. Nope, I did not do a very good job of that, but what happened there? That wasn't great. Do I have a spare? I don't think I do. I have others, but I don't think I have a spare of that one. Well, that's fine. I'll sort that out later. I can still show you the rest of it. So for adventure, and I actually can't remember if I did it in this order or if I switched it, but so we want to ink up that, and you do need to be careful. And this is probably, I probably did get this a little bit too low, because you actually want this on an angle. There's not a huge amount of room, and I don't think, I'm actually going to flip this over just to test this out. It may be better to do this one first. Just because that one takes up the most room, and this is not the right side for the so excuse my head. Let's see if I can get this in. It worked the first time. It's not going to work quite so well this time. It does need to be right up at the top, and that one needs to be a bit further down. But I will still show you the rest of it, and I will fix it up later. Now I've got this the wrong way around. So then I just flipped it around. That's how it should look. So you can see, if you compare one to the other, that one is, yeah, no, it didn't work either. That one is a bit too high, because there's quite a bit of gap there, a bit more than on this one. And then there's not, that one just touches, but not as much as that. So I will try again. I won't stick this one on. I'll fix it up later, but let's see if we can get this. My eyesight's not the greatest, and particularly for these, that's better. It's not great. And that's too low. I need to have that one up higher. But it does fit. But that's okay. And of course, you can always use a bigger sentiment panel, or just a completely different sentiment. That is fine. We'll just pretend that one's on there for now. And then, so all we need to do after that, take that off for now, is just add some embellishments. And I am using the adhesive backed sparkle gems. These ones are on the last chance list. So if you do want some of these, again, I'm not sure what the stock levels are like. So there could be heaps in stock. It's not on low inventory, at least the last time I checked. So that's a good sign. But no guarantees as to how long that will last. Alrighty, so just add a few of those. And then, so that will be popped up on dimensionals. Oh, look, here's one I prepared earlier. Look at that. So that one is up on dimensionals. But that is the first one. Now on to the second one. Where is it gone? It's hiding. Hiding. There we go. So this is the second one. This one is nice and simple, apart from, for me at least, the twine. If you've watched my videos, you know I'm not good at twine, but I've decided to use it because it works. So you will have to suffer through me trying to tie a knot with twine. Let's see how that goes. All right, so for this one, let's move that out of the way for a moment. We have a Blackberry Bliss card base. I'm just trying to work out which side I've got the, I can never see I have stamped this with my stamp. I just can't tell. I think it is that way. It's very hard to tell. I need to do those ones in white. And then we have just basic white for the inserts and Misty Moonlight, a basic white sentiment panel, some DSP, and then some, so this is two-tone cardstock, and we are going to be sanding that. Now, before I forget, starting tomorrow until Friday, so 3 days, all two-tone cardstock is 20% off. So if you did want to or need some more, or you want to try it out, you haven't used it yet, now's a good time. All of it is 20% off from tomorrow through Friday. All right, so let's do the sanding first. So for this one, you just need a sanding block of some sort. So it could be a nail file, like one of the sort of the papery ones. This is a very old sanding block from Stampin' Up. This is from probably 15 years ago or thereabouts, but you can also use like the nail files, these sort of ones, they work as well. Use sandpaper, just make sure it's fairly fine and be gentle. And you do want to be particularly careful with the stems here, because they are quite fragile, and if you're sanding them, definitely don't go back and forth because you will probably pull them off. So, and I might as well just get these bits out before I start. I think that's all of them. So we're just going to sand this a little, just so it looks like it's got a little dusting of snow. So this is one of the main techniques you can do with the two-tone cardstock, because it's white core rather than regular coloured cardstock, which is solid colour. When you sand it, you will get the white cord going through. And with when you use the embossing folders as well, you'll often get just a touch of the white showing through. So it just gives slightly different effect for the embossing folders as well, which can be really nice with some of them in particular. So I'm just going one direction, particularly over the stems, just to avoid, or hopefully avoid, damaging the trees. And we want to make sure we've got some in the middle. So how much or how little you do is up to you. Depends how much effect you want. And you will find that, you know, usually with the sanding blocks, you will need to replace them at some point. They end up not working quite as well, but much better to take your time with this one than to try and rush it and end up damaging your cardstock in the process. Because the two-tone is also a little more fragile and thinner than the regular coloured cardstock. So you don't want to go overboard. I think that will probably do it. That's maybe a tiny bit more here. Just a little. There we go. That'll do. All right, so just got lots of blue. Yeah, all right. So what we'll do now is we will get my mat back out just in case. So we'll just stick this one down. Oh, I just remembered I actually need to do a little bit of stamping on this. 2 lots. No, I completely forgot. That's all right. Let's do that now. Forgot because it's quite subtle, so it's hard to see. Or at least it's not super obvious, doesn't massively stand out, which is what we want. So 2 lots. One is the clouds, and we are using smoky slate for that, and we're going to stamp off the smoky slate because we don't want it to, yeah, just check that that's, and we're just going to randomly stamp along. So we just want a few. That's probably enough. And then the next one, we're going to double stamp off. So Misty Moonlight down the bottom. Now you don't have to do this one. This one is optional. I'm just using the little sort of water stamp. So we definitely don't want this to be super. Now my Misty Moonlight ink is fairly old, so it's, you got to press quite hard, but we don't want too much color. So that's still quite light. I'm actually going to stamp that one off 3 times and we'll see how we go. Yeah, that's better. So I do need to, for this one, because it's the old stamp pad, I do need to press in quite firmly to get the ink. But then I'm actually triple stamping off that one. And you can do double or triple, whatever you prefer. That's that. And I didn't destroy that in the process, which is nice. So we're going to wrap this around twice and tie a bow. So we just need to work out how much. I might go a little bit more just because I am not very good at tying bows, especially when my hands are cold and especially with twine. So let's see how long this takes. Actually, that's right. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to, first of all, I'll just, got too much glue on my scissors. Let's cut that off. But I'm actually going to get a glue dot and stick that down underneath where I want the, where that's going to sit. That's going down there. I'm going to stick that down under there. That just gives that piece something to stick to, which just makes it a little bit easier to try and tie a bow, because I need all the help I can get with these. No, that's not working. And let's come up. Press that down a bit more. Can I get my fingers through? Oh, come on. Oh, it's not liking me tonight. All right, let's go. Let's go old school. No, it doesn't even want to. Not even going to help me with that. Come on. That looks terrible, but let's see if we can straighten this up and make it look vaguely better. Vaguely. Need to make it smaller for starters. And need to make sure it actually stays stuck down. That would help. You might chuck another glue dot underneath just to keep it extra secure and stop it wriggling around too much. No, that's not the right one. Come on. All right. Let's just shorten these. All right. And then we need to put, where did my trees go? There they are. Because these need to go behind. So these are just going to sit behind. Let's see if I can, it's going to be twisted. Can I untwist? Is it going to untwist for me without destroying itself? No, it really doesn't want to. All right, I will leave it. I will try and sort it out later. So that is going to sit behind there. So we'll add a little bit of glue to that one. Try not to add too much, but I always add too much. Just going out there. Alrighty. Let's bring that bit down. I will try and sort that out properly later. Before we stick those down, let's do the stamping. So we just need to stamp the sentiment now. And I don't think I got this one out before. So we're just using the just breathe and take it slow sentiment. And I need a bigger block. Let's take this one off. And I'm going to go Misty Moonlight again for this one. Let's make sure that's stamping properly. Alrighty, so that's going in the middle. That over to the side, and that, and that, and that. Alrighty, let's finish putting this one together. So I'm just going to use my green glue for this one because it's here and I don't want to run the tape runner over the twine. Just because there's not a huge amount securing it, so we shall just keep it fairly secure. And we'll add the basic light to the inside. We can just use stamp and seal that one. Okay, that one is done, and then we just need to, let's fold this now, we might as well. Okay, we just want to pop that up on some dimensionals. So I've got some of the small ones here. Some of my backing pieces are flying off. Oops. Okay. This one is just going to go up in the top center. Then for the embellishments, I am using the opal rounds. So I'm going to use a couple of the dark ones, so dark blue, and some of the clear. And I should probably put that back on before I stab myself with it. So we'll just add a couple of these ones and then some of the clear ones, or mostly clear. And that should do it. Move these out of the way. And no, it doesn't want to go back on. Fine. I will just put that over to the side. All right. that is the second one. And then the final one, just clear a little bit of space. The final one, let's bring this one back out, is this one. So we've got some die cut, some stamping, and then embossed die cut center. So this one uses an early espresso card base. And then when I find my kit, here it is. Just move some of these out of the way. So there are two basic white pieces for this one. Now just be careful, they are different. If you're getting the kit, they are different sizes. Make sure you keep the bigger one as your insert. So I'm going to put that one to the side. The smaller one is the one that we are going to be doing the ink blending on. So that one is going to sit behind the Cajun Craze cardstock with the arch cut out of it. So it's a die cut arch. So yeah, make sure you use the small one, and then there's a small strip for the sentiment, and then some pieces for die cutting. Now let's actually stamp first and get that bit done. So I need a different one again for this. So we want the "Can't Wait to See You Again" sentiment, and particularly with these ones, any outline one or particularly long ones, it helps if, rather than sort of peeling it off and whacking it straight on a block, if you let it sort of put it down on the surface and kind of let it settle into its correct shape, and then pick it up with the block. That way you don't accidentally sort of get it crooked, particularly with die cuts. If it's, you know, if it's sort of out of shape, it won't die cut properly. So that's going to fit just along there, and I'm using basic gray for this one. This is quite a long sentiment, and it also gives me a chance to check and make sure it is actually straight. So you'll just get that centered. Right, so that's that. Now, and I'm running out of space over here. We'll put that to the side for the moment. Hopefully I don't lose it. For the blending, I'm going to grab another. I tend to have extra pieces when I'm blending, just so I've got a piece for everything to rest on, and then another piece for the actual blending. So we want for this, just put some of these out of the way. All right. So we are going to use Duckling Duckling, Timid Tiger, Strawberry Slush, Blackberry Bliss, and Misty Moonlight. And you just realized you can't see all of those. There we go. So that is what we are going to use. Now in this one, you can't actually, well, technically you can, because there is Misty Moonlight in that area, but you can't see a lot of it, and that's fine. And so you do, when you are doing the blending for this one, does help if you sort of chuck your frame over the top a few times as you're going, just to make sure you're getting the right colors where you want them, because the whole thing is not going to be visible. So you do want to just keep an eye on it and make sure you're getting what you need. Now, let me get, I just need some more blending brushes. What am I missing? Glue. It's close enough. That'll do. All right. So as with all blending, starts light and build up. It's easy to add more, not so easy to take it off. So I always just tap off before you start. And I suppose the advantage with this one, this bottom section, you are not going to see. So if you sort of mess that bit up, it doesn't matter too much because it's not going to be seen. So that can be a bit of your test ground. So if we bring this in, so we can see we've got a decent chunk of yellow visible there. So that is probably going to be enough for that one. And then we'll bring in the timid tiger. Just don't too much at the start. And just remember, really light touch to start with, just so you don't accidentally add too much. So we are going to blend the timid tiger into the darling duckling and also keep working up the page. So they'll all end up blended into each other. I'm actually just going to test that down the bottom there because that's not going to be visible. And one of the things with ink blending, that it's a good thing, but you also need to remember that every single one you do is going to be slightly different. They won't all look identical. And that's a good thing because then they're all unique. But sometimes you sort of think, okay, that's the design I'm going for, and then you start and it doesn't quite look as you were intending it to. It still looks perfectly fine, but it's not going to be identical. So we're going to blend the pink right down. So it's strawberry slush right down into the timid tiger. And I'm just going to check this back over. So I haven't got a lot of room for the next color, so I don't want to add too much more. I'll actually add some more pink down in with the orange rather than going up, because I've still got Blackberry Bliss and Misty Moonlight. So add. It doesn't really matter how far up I go with the Blackberry Bliss because I'll be going over the top bit with the Misty Moonlight, so that's fine. And the very top is not visible anyway. So I'm actually going to go reasonably dark with the Blackberry Bliss. And remember, you can always go back and add more further down. So if you decide that, some of it isn't quite dark enough, you can go and add more. It's not a case of you've moved on to the next color, that's it. Just go back, add a bit more. Just remember you can add, but you can't take it back. All right, let's go to Misty Moonlight and let's see how that is going to work. And again, right at the top, so it's the very top isn't going to be visible, so I'm not too fussed if that doesn't quite look as good, because it's not all going to be visible, but and the same for the some of the very side, well, most of the very side bits, so don't worry too much if you've messed up at the edges, because no one's going to see it. I'm going to add some of the blue into the Blackberry Bliss just to make that a bit darker, and I'll probably go back over with a bit more. Okay, let's see how that's looking. So yeah, I might just add a little more. She might go a bit darker with the orange. So Timid Tiger, and we'll add some more Blackberry Bliss as well. I just want this one to be, this sort of almost top section to be a little bit darker. Okay, that's, see how that minute we will add a bit more to Tiger. And I didn't do a very good job of that. So we'll see. We'll just add. We'll add some more. See how it goes. Just make this, darker than we originally intended, but that's okay. As I said, they're all going to be different. I'm going to add some more strawberry slush in the middle. And remember, if you well and truly mess it up and you're not at all happy with it, paper has two sides. Flip it over and start again. Nothing wrong with doing that. I have done that many, many times. And sometimes the ones you mess up actually end up looking quite good. It might be for something other than what you originally intended. But sometimes you look at it and it's like, yeah, that doesn't work. But then something else, it's actually really good. Let's have a look. So that's not too bad. It's a little orange is a little darker than I want, but that's not too bad. I might add a bit more orange down the bottom because there's a bit more yellow than they ideally wanted down there. I think the original piece that I had used was, I was using a slightly bigger piece, so I had more space to work with before the yellow came through. So I think haven't got as much with this one because I realized I didn't need quite as much cardstock, and we'll just add a bit more in the middle here. Yeah, that'll do. And you can, you've got a bit of room to play with, so you can adjust just so that's not, it's a bit too much of a, looks a bit too much of a straight line. And that's over the top. So yeah, I think that'll work. It'll work. All right, so I will move some of this out of the way. Let's get these out of the way so I don't end up with ink all over everything. And look, I have a nice colorful border. All right, where's my silicone sheet gone? There it is. So we want to add this over this. So you just want to make sure that, when you're moving it around, that you've got actually, before we do that, we need to stamp. But I'm going to keep the frame as a bit of a guide, because you want to make sure that where you stamp the trees are going to be visible. So we have some of the big, some of the little. And now for the stamping for this one, you can go, I did stamped off basic grey. You could do the basic grey, or you could also use basic black and stamp off, or not stamp off. You don't have to stamp off. Actually, I don't know if I did stamp off for that one. I can't remember now. Let's have a bit of a play. I'll just clean some of my stamps because I need my blocks back. So got that one, and then I just need one of my smaller stamps. Let's have a look and see what this is going to look like. So let's see. No, I didn't stamp it off. I think I just thought I did because I did it for a lot of other stuff, but not for this one. All right. Let's get this back in the middle. So we want to make sure that the trees are sort of, the end of the tree is hidden by the frame. And then the next one is going to sit slightly up from that. And I'm actually going to come over slightly so it also kind of hides the slightly botched stamping. And then the third one. And And then, actually, that wasn't, not what I just did. That was fine, but I just realized the small stamp isn't actually the one I want. I want the big one. Bigger. I did actually, that's right. I did try doing some stamping off with this one just to see how it would look, and it's okay, but it's it's not quite as good. And I might let's have a look. Let's check this over and see how it's. No, I think that'll be fine. I had one a bit further over, but I think that will work. That'll work fine. Doesn't need to be identical to the others. All right, now we can put this over the top. I'm going to add the adhesive to this one so that I don't end up with adhesive where I don't want it. All right. So before I stick that down, let's just make sure that's vaguely straight and make sure it's covered and at both ends, and we can still see the bits we want. So I'm just going to carefully pick this up just because there is, yeah, let's straighten this up a bit. Too much on one side, not on the other, and that's fine, but let's straighten that up a bit. Doesn't matter too much, of course, but that'll do. All right. Now where's my card base? We will add this to the card base, and seeing as I've already got some liquid glue on the back there, we will add more liquid glue to this one. Make sure there's some up in the corners. And then we just need to add the die cut pieces as well. So I have they decided to come out. So we've got some little ones. We've got the fire, we have mountain and a few little trees. So we'll do the little mountain first. So we will stick that about there. So I'm not gonna, I'll add the adhesive, but I'm just gonna add, well, I'm just gonna press down on the bottom bit first because we want the trees to sit behind. So let's get that sorted. So fairly close to the edge. And we'll just get that straight, just pressing the bottom down. so that we can get the trees in. Don't need a lot of glue on these, just enough. And next I'm going to go with that second one next, because I want the third one to sit over the top of both. And that one's going to sit just about there. So now that's in. Actually, let's move him down ever so slightly. That's fine. Press that down. Then we just need a little bit of adhesive for these pieces. We're nearly done. Always takes a little bit longer when you've got ink blending, because it can take a bit longer than you think, but it is a fun technique. Alrighty, let's get that one down, and then we'll just, where did my sentiment strip go? I know I put it off to the side. There it is. So that's going to go up the top. So I just need to trim that down slightly so it fits pretty much perfectly. I just cut the cardstock a bit longer initially just to give me a bit of extra room in case. And I'm just going to try and we didn't actually make that any better, but that's okay. Just a few. If it would actually stick, a few little dimensionals. I've got backings that go everywhere. And then we just need to add some embellishments. Now, on my original card, I used some very old embellishments. So they were the old pearls that we used to have, and they were the original the ones, and the very, very small ones. We don't have anything that size anymore, but what I thought could try is some of the new, so these are new Shimmer Star foam stickers. Try to send that 3 times really fast. But I reckon we could just add a few of those, just the little white ones. Or you can get the black ones. Or the purple. So I'm just going to add just a few of those. I think that will be enough for those. So they've got a little bit of sparkle in them. And I suppose we should add the insert as well. Might as well while we're here. And I've actually still got, oh, I suspect this is going to run out. Let's see. And I've got bits of time coming along for the ride. I don't think you're going to be staying. Thank you very much. All righty. There we go. That is that one. Let me bring the others back in and move other stuff out of the way. Where did my first card go? That is. Alrighty, so these are, once I get them back in, these are the 3 cards from this week's online class to go. So orders until Saturday, $75 or more, excluding postage, and after any Stamp Rewards redemptions. And I will send you 2 each, kits for 2 each of the 3 different designs. Just remember, you do need to have the stamp set and bundle. I can't send stamped images. You'll get the cardstock to do the die cutting, but you will need to do the die cutting yourself unless it's a die cut that is not part of this bundle. So like the arch, I will die cut that. The embossing folder, I will do that. The sentiment labels, I will die cut all of those, but the die cut specifically from the Scenic Adventures bundle, you do need to have the bundle for that. And I will just switch my camera back. Alrighty. There we go. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the class and the cards. I will be back next week. What is, I think, Celebration Expressions, Memories and More cards next week, but don't quote me on that. I can't remember. But yeah, I will be back next week for next week's class. Have a great week, and I'll see you soon. Bye.